Hello, I'm Seema Chishti and welcome to BookShook. So the book that has us shook today is The Hindi Heartland. It is by the redoubtable Ghazala Wahab. She's a reputed journalist, editor of Force, a magazine on national security and defense. She's also the author of Born a Muslim, Some Truths About Islam in India. She's edited other books and co-authored one on India's China challenge. Ghazala is fearless, candid, and has always spoken with great clarity on issues of the day and things that matter to her and are important for India. Her new book leaps even higher in terms of ambition from her previous book. It's a biography almost of the entire Hindi belt, 8 states, 5 sections, researched like a history scholar with several stories, voices, and experiences throwing in, making it a very worthwhile read. Welcome to the Wire, Ghazala.
Thank you so much, Seema, and thank you so much for your introductory words.
I hope they've suitably
I'm
embarrassed you.
speechless.
Yeah.
No, I'm speechless.
Okay, so we'll give you some time to recover your speech, about 10 seconds. Your book challenges the idea of the Hindi heartland as a monolithic entity. So you come to this thinking Hindi heartland, the one thing that must be is its sameness, is its Hindi. What is the central message you want your readers to take away from this, especially in these polarized times?
When I used to think about the Hindi belt and pejoratively called the cow belt region, everybody would think about this as one monolith place where the two unifying factors was poverty, illiteracy. And because of that, extreme religious conservatism and social inequalities. So I also was not really a proponent, but I was a believer in this received wisdom about the Hindi belt region. So when I was researching the book, my first thought was that why a book is required for this region? What is it that I want to communicate through this book? Am I only going to reinforce the existing prejudices about this region, or am I going to make a discovery? And if I'm going to make a discovery, to what point am I going to bring my argument to? And one thing which I found was extremely unifying about this region, which nobody thinks of, is its unity in diversity. And once I had this clarity, I realized that actually wherever you look in the Hindi belt, whichever state you look, whichever district you look, let's say I come from UP and I come from Western UP. Within the Western UP, there's so much of diversity. There's diversity of language, there's diversity of religious practices. I mean, even if the core religions are similar, Hinduism, Islam, Sikhism, but the way they are practiced, there's so much of diversity even within this Western UP region. So, despite that, we have lived together in harmony, or at least we used to live together in harmony for until 200 years ago. And that is when I was stunned by the realization that when we talk of Ganga Jamni, or when the elite would talk about their old times and a lot of nostalgia, that we used to have these bathaks at home and mushairas and all those other badabs and all that. So it's not just a elitist nostalgia. It was integral part of this region. Maybe not in the terms of the way it, you say roti beti ka rishta. It's not that you're breaking bread together or you're marrying into each other's families. But there was so much of interdependence, there was so much of uh, I wouldn't say cohabitation, but co-living. You would live in the same areas. The segregation, the ghettos were not that pronounced. I grew up in a place which had mixed population, though I did not come from an extremely elite background. It was more or less a working class background. But there was engagement with people from other religions, other castes. There was consciousness about the differences, and especially the caste consciousness was pretty pronounced. But it was not vilification, it was not hatred, it was not distaste of others' lifestyle. So, this is what I realized, that actually, if we were able to do all this together a few centuries ago, and traces of which were evident till the time I was growing up in this region, till the mid 1990s. So, how was that possible? So, I thought maybe by research, whatever I find out, it should be reinforcing this idea that when we talk of unity in diversity, this was the heart of that diversity.
So the book really details how Hindi's dominance was politically engineered, first by the British and then from certain sections of the heartlands kind of society. What are the risks of linguistic centralization for India's cultural diversity, you think? Because if this was to be taken forward in a part two, as it were, and what are the risks that Indian nationhood would have from this idea?
I think in a theoretical context, the biggest risk is that we lose so much of our heritage. We lose our whole history of our cultural diversity, lingual diversity. That is the biggest risk. Uh, Politically and socially, it will just create unnecessary discord. It will lead to further um distancing between people. Now, in any case, we have so many things which are dividing us because of the politics of the present times. If you add language to that matrix, then we are just adding to the factors which divide us instead of investing in factors which unite us. So I think it's a very bad idea. But from me personally, it would be the loss of our literary heritage, which would be really tragic.
Invaluable, really.
Absolutely,
Almost.
that
Yeah.
loss is
Yeah.
would be really very very tragic.
Ghazala, you also highlight caste as the most enduring social reality in the region. How are current movements like the demand for a caste census, affirmative action, shaping the socio-political landscape of the Hindi belt, whether it's UP, Bihar, and now even Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh?
I don't think knowledge is a bad idea. If you know the
Yes,
realities, it's not a bad idea. Because in the absence of knowledge, what happens is all kinds of falsehoods are peddled, and grievances are allowed to fester. So I do not disapprove, or I do not think caste census is a bad idea. If we are doing census because we want to determine who should be the beneficiaries of the government largesse, then we should have accurate figures. We should have the data with us. So I do not think that is a bad idea. Now, the truth is, caste is a reality across religions in India. Even the casteless religions have a caste system built into them now, because that is our social reality. And if where in the places where, even if you want to tide over the caste differences, there is a class difference which creeps in. And in a lot of places, maybe Bihar and parts of eastern Uttar Pradesh, class, they kind of they they weld
point
together
in the same direction. Yeah.
so I think there is no harm in doing that. In fact, it is a good thing that we should have clarity about the exact population matrix in India. Having said that, the dangerous aspect of caste that we have seen is when it is used for political purposes to create specific vote banks, to manipulate your caste identity to serve a vested purpose. And unfortunately, in the last few decades, this is what has been happening. Your caste has been used as a entity by which you can create numbers for your street power. So when the RSS makes an outreach, or has been making an outreach towards the people who are beyond the pale of the caste, Dalits for instance, they have used uh, acceptance in the larger Hindu community as an entry ticket for Dalits to be oppressive against those they think are their internal enemies, whether it's Muslims or tribal population. So this is where it is dangerous to use caste, because this can have a backlash.
So, what kind of a backlash in already caste conscious, caste driven, and caste ordained societies of the Hindi belt will the caste census enable the wheel to move on, or will it get more mired in it? What's your guess?
You know, states like UP and Bihar, the caste consciousness in these states has led to a lot of caste violence, which is true, but it has already historically created a space, political space, for people who were dispossessed earlier, to find their political voice. This this kind of a churning, bottoms up churning, has not happened in states like Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan, where everybody kind of accepted their position in the society and accepted their hierarchy quietly. So I think the places where this census may lead to churning could be in places where the people had quietly accepted their hierarchy. They may become more assertive, because in places like Bihar, the caste's assertion is already there. It is part of the political landscape. So I don't think anything greatly different is going to happen there, except that the upper caste will feel even more marginalized, and they'll start protesting that they have no, their children have no future in India. And beyond that, I think the impact will be felt in areas where the backward castes, Dalits, even Muslims have accepted their lower status or secondary status in the society.
Ghazala, about these parts, I mean, of course, Bimaru was kind of a acronym used for some time, but there's this sort of despair, if you like, or an understanding that there may be something intrinsically in the way things are structured here, that economic development or just what you have in Tamil Nadu after, say, an upsurge of the backward classes coming up, and you saw extraordinary rise there. Similar kind of politics or good politics has not always led to good economics or people's economic status rising significantly. What were your findings as you did this very extensive research for this book?
See, I think the reason for economic backwardness in this region, the Hindi belt, I would take it back to the colonial period, where there was very deliberate exploitation of this region, both of human resource as well as the natural resources. That sustained exploitation without any investment in the society by the British has eroded whatever this area had in terms of human capital, in terms of natural capital. This was agriculturally a very rich region. The earliest part of India where you had actually a corporate, corporate. I mean, I wouldn't say a corporate sector in the present parlance, but where you
towns,
had
industry,
and you had industry, you had this manufacturing centers. Was this region, and this region had and all during the Mughal rule in India. I mean, before Mughal rule, I think from the time of the Delhi Sultanate, Balban onwards, there was so much of investment in creating pockets of manufacturing, pockets of agriculture, and there was proper thinking which went behind what crop to grow in which region. All of that was eroded when the colonizing power came, because obviously the wealth was being remitted. It was being taken out from India to another country, which was a parent country for the colonizers. So that has had a huge impact on this region. It induced economic and social backwardness, because the crafts were lost, the expertise in manufacturing was lost, and the land was cultivated dry because of cash crops like indigo and opium. So there was nothing, that land was not yielding any longer. And because the British policy of treating India as a source of raw material and then subsequently market for manufactured goods, their focus was always on the coastal towns, because that is where their trade plied from. So they did not focus in reinvesting in this region. And after independence also, for some reason, the government of India continued to follow that sort of a policy. It did not look at the manufacturing sector in this region. It looked at agriculture, because Gandhi ji had said that India lies in its villages. So the focus was on rejuvenating the villages at the cost of small towns, which were once center of your.
So you actually see a lot of deindustrialization that happens in UP, whether it's Kanpur, Banaras, the great university towns as well, Allahabad also, that has kind of just gotten worse even in independent India.
Especially after independent India, because after independent India, when we were bringing up our industry, the focus was always outside the Hindi belt. For some reason, Hindi belt was delivering political goods to the ruling parties without any investment. So they did not
You
bother.
feel the need to invest. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they did not need to
Yeah.
invest.
You know, the economics aside, the other, the social conservatism, it's politics, and currently now it's kind of being seems to be almost fixed in the BJP side of things, in a certain kind of political ideas thing. Should you have included Gujarat in this book? It's not the Hindi heartland. It's not in the heartland. It's a coastal, industrially vibrant coastal state. But politically and culturally, does it fit somewhere here?
Actually, I do not see it like that, because politically, Gujarat, uh, despite the history of the sultanates in Gujarat, Gujarat has not been as unified society as the Hindi heartland or Hindi belt used to be. The first division, the religious divisions, occurred only after 1857, when there was a clear rift propagated by the British. So, socially and culturally, they do not fit. Geographically also, because the Hindi belt, the geographers, they look at this region as a Indo-Gangetic valley. So it falls outside this. But very important, which I think reason that I felt that I would not want
To go there.
Gujarat to be associated with this part, is because uh, even pre-independence, Gujarat incubated a lot of, uh, I would say, divisiveness, which was not the case here. Uh, Even Mahatma Gandhi came to the Hindi belt, came to UP and
Bihar,
Bihar,
Champaran.
Champaran, to mount his mass campaign. And subsequently, also, when this after non-cooperation, when the civil disobedience movement did not really take off in the way it was expected to take off, the main argument was that the people of UP and Bihar were not rising enough. So even then, it was realized that this is the heart of India's politics, the heart of its people's power. So I think
Yeah.
I
No, that
would
was
keep
only
it there.
yeah, no, that was only a semi-serious question, Ghazala. I was like, yeah,
No,
I
no,
vaguely know, I get that, you know.
no, no, I
Yeah.
know where it comes from. And I think that is probably one of the reasons I wanted to keep it out.
Yes, yes. So your work has also emphasized the challenges faced by tribal communities. When you speak of Jharkhand, you speak of Chhattisgarh and those areas, and their problems with land displacement, the cultural assimilation programs going on. How are current development projects and the Hinduization campaigns going there, and what are they doing to tribal rights and identities?
I think there's a lot of backlash against the Hinduization project, which goes back to early pre-independent year. The first project, or the first person to invite RSS into Chhattisgarh, Jashpur, was a Congress government there. So there, at probably that time, people did not know, there was not enough awareness among the tribal population. So they accepted the idea that they were part of the larger Hindu universe. But now, if you recall, there is a court case going on. They said our religion, Sarna religion, should be recognized as a separate religion. It is not Hinduism. And so there is a huge resistance against Hinduization. This is compounded by the resistance against the takeover of their zameen, their land, by prospectors, big corporate houses, in which the governments, state governments, are complicit. So I think this is the saddest part of this region, the tribal belts. We have not been able to engage with the tribal population as equal citizens. This democracy and our so-called liberal societies,
Stops. Yeah, they are
everything
outside the
stops at the
imagination of.
it just stops at the borders of the forests, and beyond that, our popular perception also is that they are less than us. They are backwards. Either we need to protect them. And what I discovered in the course of researching was that even somebody as egalitarian as Dr. Ambedkar also had this thinking that a tribal person would not be able to take care of himself or herself. And I have quoted Mr. Munda telling him that do not presuppose things on our behalf. So unfortunately, this mindset continues. Even today, the most well-meaning people also think that if they go and work in the tribal area, uh, it's a feel-good feeling that we are helping them.
There's
Because
benevolence, there is this
yeah,
patronizing.
so that because they can't help themselves, so we need to help them. And I think that is unfortunate. It should not happen like this.
So, while speaking about people who are not seen as equals, etc., the large population of Dalits, and if we also look at the crime statistics in recent years, whether it's Madhya Pradesh or UP, there's like high amount of crime against our Dalit brethren, our fellow citizens. How do you see their relationship with the larger political project today? I mean, is there something there that could prove transformative for the national politics as well?
I think there is a difference in the kind of crime that we see against the Dalits in UP and Bihar. I would put them together, and in other states like Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Uh, the consciousness, the political consciousness amongst the Dalit in this area is much higher than in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. So in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, the crimes against Dalits are still those historical kind of crime that you can't sit on a horse or you can't sit on a chair. But here there are a lot of aggression against Dalits because they want to be taught, the upper caste wants to teach them a lesson for demanding their rights. So there's a backlash against the crimes against Dalits also. You see a lot of to and fro violence happening in this area. So the churning, the consciousness, the political consciousness is much higher, because of which the nature of the crimes against Dalits in this area is very different. I think caste census plus this political consciousness. See, the Dalits are now important even for the ruling party because of the numbers and the influence they wield on the election days, because they vote in large numbers. And
also, I think largely for the ideological project also, it is important to say that Dalits are included in the Hindutva situation. Otherwise,
Dalits also are more or less happy, or they want to be included in this larger universe. See, when Dr. Ambedkar started the emancipation program, and towards the end of his life, as a mark of protest, he converted to Buddhism. And a lot of Dalits did convert at that point. But the religion he chose was also an Indic religion, which is spiritually belongs to the same line of the family of religions. They all believe in the idea of karma and rebirth, and the cycle of rebirth being linked to your karma. So actually, it's similar in its thinking. So a lot of Dalits, whatever they may profess, they want to be part of this larger Hindu society. They want respect, they want acknowledgement from this society, which is why you see a lot of religiosity amongst Dalits. They are visiting all kinds of temples. They want to fast on probably 7 days a week. They would be fasting for one god or another goddess. Look at the Kavar Yatra, look at Ram Navami Yatras or Hanuman Yatra or all these yatras. Who are the people who are the torch bearers of this yatra? I mean, the upper caste are not really doing the yatras. I mean, they could be orchestrating it, organizing it. So for Dalits also, their increased religiosity is their ticket to being accepted as part of the Hindu society. If it comes at the price, so they're happy to pay that price. And if that price is violence against those weaker than them, they're happy to do that.
So you see them being assimilated into the Hindutva project in the Hindi Heartland.
And I think to a certain extent willingly. They want to be part of this.
So now with the increasing assertion of regional and sub-regional identities, also we've seen sporadically in the news, do you foresee a resurgence of local languages, cultures, political movements, whether in the heartland or outside? Is that counter? It could also be happening, which we see in terms of language now. But does that have the power to challenge the fundamental ideas which are trying to just unify everything, not just the Hindi belt, but everything?
Social media has been a huge contributor in this. On YouTube,
The
if you
lash or the
see,
backlash?
no, in resurgence of local languages, local cultures, traditions, and old traditions. If you see, in the course of my research, I was randomly looking at various YouTube channels, and I was surprised to see there are channels in different languages. There's a channel in, there's so many channels in Braj, there are so many channels in Awadhi language and Maithili language, Bhojpuri, and these channels, not challenges, sorry, these channels are not only linguistic channels, they're not only talking about literature and festivals and all that. They talk of food, they talk of clothes, they talk a little bit of their history. So I think what the mainstream media could not provide them, these groups or the people who are clinging on to their heritage have found an outlet through social media, especially through YouTube, and they have a substantive viewership.
Could that have political expression, or is that just just bells and whistles?
It can. I mean, if the numbers grow, a consciousness can grow among them that we are so different. Why should we all be clubbed together as one? Why should we accept being subordinate to another language or another culture which is being imposed upon us?
So, the book in the book, you also talk about the centrality of women in fostering cultural unity, or sort of being the kind of totems, if you like, that for culture, as you say, people you speak to, they say, "Ask my sister, ask my mother, ask my wife." The women are the bearers of this culture. So, I thought it is like really audacious. Your chapter on culture on page 123 for readers is the bravest kind of chapter to actually even attempt a chapter on culture. You say that curiously, except for religious rituals, almost all other aspects of North Indian culture are mostly religion and caste agnostic. Are they now? Can you make that assertion in 2025?
No, now it is difficult to say that because religion triumphs over everything else, and primarily because it is now driven by politics. See, now religion, at one point we always thought it is a belief system, my religion for myself, your religion for yourself, but now it is religion because a politician or a group of politicians are telling us this is what our religion should be, and these are the parameters of your religion. So we all of us, including our culture, is now hostage to these boundaries which uh, political opportunism has drawn again around our belief systems. Uh, it- my chapter actually tries to say that when we did not have these boundaries, how fluid and how much like a sponge our cultural practices were. We accepted everything and assimilated everything in a way that it was very difficult to tell who the religious what the person's religious beliefs were. I give the examples of kind of clothes you wear on special occasions, the marriage rituals, the North Indian marriage ritual. They're all identical. The same kind of ceremonies happen. Things like nazar utarna for your children, things like tying a thread, tying a thread in either in a dargah or outside a temple. All these things. I know. I recently came across a temple where people, after the fulfillment of their wishes, they go and they hang a bell there. So this whole idea that you go back to a shrine after your wishes have been fulfilled to do something, they're all similar. So all of this, if the religion is taken out of the argument here, then they're the same. We are actually essentially the same people with the similar kind of insecurities and similar kind of means of assuaging those insecurities and giving us confidence.
Yeah. So, looking ahead, Ghazala, what lessons from the Hindi heartland's history, diversity are most crucial for India to learn? Delimitation is due when it appears, we've not heard anything officially, but it appears that this heartland will have even more electoral heft. What will that do to the plurality, to the identity of India as a whole, and the idea of Indian nationhood?
You know,
Does it
the
scare
idea,
you?
uh, no, it doesn't scare me. Uh, Actually, I draw my teeny weeny hope from here. I'm not very hopeful, but whatever hope I have about the future, that things may improve and things may change, it comes from this heft. Because this is a region which has seen the worst depredations. It has seen invasions, it has seen erosion of its wealth, it has seen violence, it has seen brutal sundering of the nation, followed by
Partition, yes.
terrible violence after partition. So it has actually seen everything, and yet about uh, 2 decades, until about 2 decades back, it was still one region where, despite riots, despite violence, people used to still get together and they would still, go back to their normal work. Even in the decade of 80s, when there were terrible violence in this entire region, religious violence in this region, uh, the people who were working together could still go back to work together. People who were living in mixed households, neighborhoods, could still go back to their old homes and continue living there. Factories would still operate the way they would, with mixed workers. So all of that was happening because of this resilience. You had seen so much, and you understood the virtue of living and working together, because everybody benefited from there. Uh, so I think that is where I feel that
Gives you hope.
if we realize this, if we understand this, that you can do politics without causing this division, uh, what what could be better than that?
Yeah, well, surely you are hopeful. The last thing I want to talk about is there's almost like a shadow of 2025 that hangs on this book at one level. It's a brilliantly researched book. As I told you earlier, it's very crowded. There are so many people that you speak to. There's so much of research. At times, I used to get a little frustrated. I wanted more of Ghazala's voice, but I get that as a diligent reporter, analyst, you're constantly quoting, citing, and so many people walking in these pages. But would you have written this book had you written it in 2008? It almost seems as if, the kind of majoritarian politics that is upon this heartland and upon India now, are we to some sense kind of retrofitting things to see how we got here? If you're writing it here, and would it have been a different kind of a book in 2008, 2009?
It's a very difficult question to answer. It is true that I have been the kind of politics that we are seeing, and the kind of society that has grown all around us in this region. Uh, all our thinking about our past, and especially our thinking about our future, is now hostage to this present reality. So in 2008, the situation was not the same. But I would not have written this book even in 2008 if I hadn't written my previous book, Born a Muslim. And in that previous book, there was a chapter on insecurities of the Muslim community in India. And in that, I had traced the violence since partition till that point in 2020. And this realization that we have such a brutal history of violence in India, and not just North India, would have shaped this book also if it was written in 2008. But maybe in 2008, I would have been less despondent. Maybe in 2008, my book would have concluded on a more optimistic note. So that would have been the difference. Because in
Conclusion
2000,
here is pretty realistic. I would not call it despondent, but you take note of all that's happening, which is our job as journalists and documenters of our time. So I think we would be doing.
I wish I was a little
Yeah,
more
better present.
optimistic.
Well, but maybe not that realistic then, if you want. But
Yes, but yes. So I think it would have been slightly different in 2008, but not in its tenor. That would have stayed.
maybe the tone, yes. No, that's well put. Thank you so much, Ghazala, for joining us at The Wire and for writing this absolutely tour de force, as Rudranshu Mukherjee puts it. And you've got very sort of very flattering blurbs as well from people who read and write and matter. Thank you for writing this for us.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks.